Hi, this is Bill Duran with Diamond Guard Insurance. Hope y'all are doing well today. Wanted to talk about what things a first-time home buyer needs to know. We are entering that time of year where a lot of people are looking to buy a house. It's summertime, school's getting out. It's traditionally a big time of year for people to buy homes. So I congratulate you if you're in that bucket. But I wanted to just tell you about a few things I think you should know. The first thing is your monthly payment is not your full cost. Okay, we go out, we talk to the mortgage brokers, we find out how much our house payment is going to be, principal and interest. There are other things you need to consider when it comes to your monthly costs. You should plan to budget about 1 to 3% of the value of your home in things like insurance, taxes, and maintenance, routine maintenance. So to do the math, if you have a $300,000 home, it's probably going to cost you between $5,000 and $10,000 in those costs each and every year. So broken down into a monthly basis, that's $500 to $900 a month, in addition to the principal and interest that you're going to have to pay. So it's just a good thing to be aware of that when you're thinking about your future cash flow. The second thing is everything has a lifespan. Doesn't matter if it's your pet, yourself, your car, your home has several things that are going to just wear out, as mechanical things do. The HVAC system, the air conditioning system, it's going to last about 10 to 15 years with proper maintenance. The water heater, it's going to last about 8 to 12 years. When we bought our first house, we had the water heaters were actually about 14 years old, so we got good use out of them. The house had 3 different water heaters in it. Our very first Thanksgiving, we had family from both my side and my wife's side, and 2 of the hot water heaters broke on that weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, when people were staying at our house for the first time. It's very difficult to get a plumber on the weekend of Thanksgiving, and you pay a lot for it. But 8 to 12 years is what you can count on. So just know you're going to be replacing that. And the roof. In Texas, roofs will last about 8 to 15 years. Sometimes it'll be shorter, sometimes it'll be longer. But the elements, the sun, the heat, the hail, that all adds up. And even though the roof may say it'll last for 30 years, it doesn't last in Texas for 30 years. The next thing to know is your home's critical controls. And by this, I mean, I'm talking about things like the water shutoff valve. You want to know where to turn that off in case you have a leak. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. The electrical panel. Know how to change the fuses. Know how to figure out why is nothing working in this room right now. When an electrical storm comes through and it flickers out, you need to be able to change that. And know where the gas shutoff is if your home has gas. That is incredibly important because obviously if we start smelling the rotten egg smell, we need to be able to turn that off and get the gas company out. And not just one person should know this. Everybody that is old enough to understand it should know that, because you never know who's going to be the person that's at home. Now I'm going to get into water damage. So we had 3 pretty significant leaks in the 20 plus years that we owned our house. The first one happened before we even moved into it. We had closed on the house, but with all the moving and everything, we were moving from a different city inside the state. And we had about a 2-week period where we were not in the house. We had a friend checking it. She went and checked it on Friday, and then on Monday she went back in, and during that period of time, a commode in the upstairs bathroom had started leaking. And it covered the entire upstairs, all the way down the stairs, and everything on the ground floor. We ultimately had to rip out all the walls. We were concerned about mold. And as the plumber told me, he said the prior homeowner had replaced a $19 part with a $12 part. So it can happen like that. And if you go on a long vacation, even a long weekend, you can have a significant amount of damage done to your home. I got to the point where I would turn off the valve from the street, sending the water into my house when I went on a vacation. And I'm going to just tell you from personal experience, pay attention to what your pets are doing. We had a leak that started off, my cat was sleeping in an unusual spot. He was by the refrigerator. And I couldn't figure out why he was sleeping there. I let it go for about 4 or 5 days. And then I started looking at it and I started feeling it. And I felt that the ground was warm. What was right underneath the refrigerator? So I assumed it was the venting of the refrigerator was blowing out hot air. I thought I had a refrigerator problem. Well, about 3 days later, the hot water heater was in the garage. I started having water leaking up through the cracks in my garage floor. So I had a water leak at that point in time. We caught it, could have caught it earlier if I had thought it through. But if your pets start doing something different, start looking at what's going on with that. The next thing is maintenance is ongoing. Things that you should do every single quarter is change your HVAC, your air conditioning filters. That can make, if you let them pile up, that can create a strain on the system. And that can make the system work harder than it needs to and will shorten the life of it. Clean your gutters twice a year. At least once a year, but twice a year, because when the leaves fall in the fall, they're going to block up your gutters. There's more leaves that seem to fall in the spring. There's other things that get in there. Sometimes a rabbit or an animal gets in there and doesn't make it back out. Those things can all clog up your gutters, and that can lead to an internal leak. And inspect your roof annually. As I said before, roofs have a shorter lifespan here. Sometimes it could be a minor repair. You're missing some shingles from a strong windstorm. You want to take care of those immediately, because even missing a few shingles or loose shingles can result in a leak that can cause a lot of damage inside the house. Have a roofer come out and inspect it. They love to do that. They'll tell you if you need a new one. They'll also tell you if it can be fixed with some, really easy maintenance work. Next thing is build a basic toolkit. I am not a guy that understands tools. And in that way, I think I was a disappointment to my dad. My dad could fix everything. I call somebody to do most things. But there are certain basic things you want to make sure you have. Drills, hammers, screwdrivers. It took me a little while. My dad actually bought me my first toolkit, said, you need this now that you have a house. And he was right. Other things you might want to consider is a ladder. You may want to be able to get up on the roof to check something out. You definitely want to use it to get up to your gutters. I needed a ladder because I had a second floor, a raised ceiling in our house, and that was the only way I could reach to change the light bulbs. And I certainly didn't want to call an electrician just to change a light bulb. I'm not that mechanically inclined, but I like to think I can do a light bulb change. Next thing is you want to keep records. Every time you do a repair, an upgrade, maintenance, keep a record of that. I'm very fortunate in that my wife is the record keeper in our house. She has everything going back as long as possible. If you buy a new refrigerator, when you call up to file a warranty claim, they're going to ask you information. You're going to want to have those records. When you go to sell the home, you've been there for 20 years, you raised your family, and now it's time for you to downsize. Having that record, even if they don't look at it, just showing them, hey, I got all the records of all the maintenance I did, will give the next buyer confidence that this house was well taken care of. Because when you're buying a home that somebody else has lived in, one of your concerns is how was it taken care of? Being able to provide that documentation can really help your resale value. Make thoughtful upgrades. Focus on improvements that improve efficiency and comfort. Okay, think about lighting, insulation, climate control. Not every upgrade needs to be immediate. When we first moved into our first home, we wanted to change a lot of things. It was around the year 2000, and the home was built in the 80s, and it looked like an 80s home. And we thought, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, we're going to change that. Well, we had the leak, so a lot of it got changed without us planning it. But some of the ideas that we wanted to do, we never did. One of them was we wanted to create a home theater room. That was the big thing 20 years ago. And within a couple of years, the TVs got so big and so good that we didn't need the home theater room. So really think about what it's going to do to your resale value, and if you really want that, or if it just sounds really cool. And avoid rushing the renovations. Again, going back to what I said before, when we moved in, we wanted to do a lot of renovations right away. It would have cost us a lot of money that was better served being in the bank in case something else broke. And after a while, you get used to it, and you don't really need to do the renovations. Do the ones you really want to do. My dad always told me, think about a major investment for a day or two. You may not want to buy it. And it's the same way with the renovations. Don't just rush into it because everybody else has it. Exterior maintenance matters. You need to watch the drainage around your home. You need to make sure that the foundation is dry and is not having a lot of dampness get into it. Trees Trees can do a lot of damage to a roof if they're touching it. Animals have a better way to get into the house. So you want to watch the trees. You want to look for any cracks in your house. It's amazing, but squirrels can get into a crack that I think is about an inch thick. I don't know how they do it, but you can end up with a squirrel family living in your attic. I speak from experience on that too. So you want to just make sure you're taking care of the outside, because if you don't, that can cause significant damage on the inside. This is one I learned the hard way. I'd come from an apartment. Uh, Expect that your maintenance or your utility costs will vary significantly, especially down here. Our range for our electrical, which was what our air conditioning and heating was based on, went from $200 in the winter to close to $1,500 in the summer. We lived for that per month. We lived with that for about 4 years until the air conditioner finally did give out. At that point in time, we did a major renovation. You couldn't see it, but what we did is we replaced the air conditioning units and we redid the venting in the house, and that dropped our utility costs, the electricity costs, from about $1,500 a month in the peak summertime to around $300 to $400 per month. That is a renovation that I considered well worth it, and it made the house a whole lot cooler. In addition, we did some insulation and everything. But if you're used to living in an apartment, you may have pretty static utility costs throughout the year, but you may see a major swing when you go and you buy a house. And so you just want to be ready for it, because again, that affects your cash flow. Know when to do it yourself and when to call a professional. We can all go onto Google and TikTok and everything and figure out how to do things. Doesn't mean we should. Sometimes you want to just call the professional in. Electrical, structural, and major plumbing work, call somebody that knows what they're doing. It'll save you money in the long run. You want to build an emergency fund. The air conditioning might go out, and they may not just be able to fix it with a charge of Freon. You want to have some money that you're, either in your savings account or a line of credit, somewhere that you can access the money very quickly, so you aren't, putting it on a high interest credit card. So just spend some time every month and devote a little bit towards building that emergency fund. Get to know your neighbors. We got to know all of our neighbors. It's harder to do now than it may have been when we were kids. But we got to know our neighbors. And at one point, we had a leak in our house while we were on vacation, and it was coming through to the alley and back. And I got a call from my neighbor. He knew my number. He knew we were on vacation. He said, "Hey, I'm seeing something here." And we were able to get a plumber in there. It was nice to have a neighbor. When you're gone, it's nice to have somebody watching what's going on at your house. So take the time to get to know your neighbors. You don't have to be best friends with them, but introduce yourself, say hi, be friendly when you see them outside. It will help you out at some point if you own a home long enough. And think long term. Staying proactive with maintenance, saving up, doing the renovations. This is all meant to protect your biggest investment. Many of us, this is our biggest investment. We want to take care of it. We want to love it. We want to make it a place that we're proud of. And we want to make it a place that the next person will be proud of too. So your home isn't just something you own. It's really something that you have to manage. So you treat it like an investment. You take care of it. You give it some tender loving care, and the home will treat you very well. So I wish you the luck in finding the home of your dreams, and I hope this helps a little bit. Have a great day.